Hi, my name is Gerhard Schwantner and welcome to Selling Power TV. Today we have the pleasure of meeting with Julie Thomas, who is the CEO of Value Selling Associates. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Gerhard. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for inviting me to talk to you today.
Thank you for sharing your story about the value selling framework. How did it start?
The value selling framework was actually created by a gentleman by the name of Lloyd Sappington back in the early 90s. And Lloyd's background was that he was at Xerox Computer Systems when they did the initial big study with Neil Rackham to identify what were some of the behaviors that high-performing, top-performing sales reps did. And the output of that was that high-performing sales reps ask more questions and they ask better questions throughout the sales cycle. And you also need to know what are the key initiatives related to your products and services that a company might be dealing with. Because if I can connect to your top business objectives, that's where funding, energy, and attention goes in any business.
How the companies make the transition from building relationships to creating value for the company and for themselves.
Relationships are important. Don't be confused. So even as we elevate the conversation, it doesn't mean that we're dismissing the power of a relationship. If you and I have a relationship and you trust me, the likelihood that you're going to give me insight, give me time, and be open to the ideas that I might have for you increase. But just having that relationship is insufficient. So taking that relationship to now, how do I add value to you, Gerhard, as both a professional as well as a business executive to your business, is where we come in and help sales reps develop the skills to leverage the relationship for purposeful, strategic opportunities and generating revenue for their employers.
So now value selling has been on the market for over 20 years. How has it evolved and kept up with the time? Because now we are in a technology-driven environment where there's an abundance of information and poverty of attention.
You need to align the sales strategy with your prospect's business strategy, but you also need to align it with their buying process. So we often talk about, here's our sales process, and here's the ideal steps we would go through to create and qualify an opportunity. Yet oftentimes when we get engaged for the first time with a prospect, they're already down 50% of the way of what our sales process is. So how do I back you up and have you kind of walk me through that process? Because the reality is sometimes the prospect isn't adequate or efficient at fully diagnosing what their challenges are.
So what you're really saying is that it is hard for salespeople to understand what areas of knowledge the customer is ignorant about and what areas of knowledge where the customer is on par, even ahead of the salesperson.
For almost every client, there's something going on in the business itself that leads them to think they need something different. Maybe I'm trying to open up a new market to grow revenue, and that represents a series of challenges for me. And they identify that there are certain problems that they need to eliminate or address. How do I scale? I don't have experience in this area. I don't have the right people in this area. It could be people problems, process problems, technology problems that are barriers to success. And then somebody says, okay, what do we need to do to address that? And they say, we need a new technology platform, or we need a consulting partner that's going to help us go into this market. Whatever that is that they just define. Then somebody goes and sits at a computer, does a bunch of Google searches, comes up with a short list. They may call a colleague and a friend. They may call a Gartner group or some other company to get some insight and get that short list. They then send out an email, and whether it's an RFP or an RFI, and say, hey, tell me what you got and how much it costs. And sales reps that respond to that immediately are completely disadvantaged, because what they don't have insight is to this. So what we help sales reps do is to back the prospect up. I am happy to share with you what I have and how much it costs. But in order to do that effectively, I need to understand, why do you think you need this in the first place?
Julie, you have also written a book. Do you have a copy?
It's called Value Selling, Driving Sales Up One Conversation at a Time, because that's where selling takes place, in the conversation, in the communication between you and your prospect. And just a side note, Gerhard, I'm in the process of writing my second book. I haven't come up with a title yet.
Okay, a final question, Julie. Is value selling part of a mindset? And if it is, how would you describe that mindset?
It is a mindset, because the mindset is, in order for me to be successful, I need to know more than product knowledge. I need to know more about my customer or prospective customer and what their issues and problems are and how I can impact those. So I think that's the mindset of knowing that I have that focus. But just as important, value selling is a skill set. Now, it's great to say that's what I have to do. The question is, how do I do that? So it's a skill set, a tool set, a process, but without that mindset, they'll never embrace that they need to do things differently.
Where can people learn more about you and your solutions besides going to Amazon and buying your book?
You can visit us at valueselling.com. We've got a myriad of free, yes, free resources for you, from newsletters with tips, with an overview of our methodology. We do monthly webinars. We have a podcast called the B2B Revenue Executive that is incredibly valuable that's what we hear from our clients and prospects, that keep people abreast of some of the leading edge companies in this space, revenue executives, and how they're changing the game in their own companies.